We're here in Eugene, Oregon, 2025 USA Outdoor Championships. Day one, it's almost done. They got the 10Ks going on. Shout out to everyone's going on and all that, right? But let's talk about those 100-meter heats on both the men's and the women's side. Originally, I was like, okay, you know, we're going to see some performances. I don't know if we're going to see anything too crazy, but especially on the women's side, listen, we saw some great performances that are pretty indicative of how, you know, these athletes are able to approach the heats and what it might mean going into the semifinals. Similar on the men's side as well to a degree, but some interesting storylines that I saw coming out of these rounds. Now, first off, just to set the stage, and I'm going to start off with the women, then move on to the men. The top 6 qualifiers automatically advance to semifinals, and then you had the next 3 fastest times. Essentially, all the top athletes, for the most part, qualified and moved into the next round. Let's start off with the women's side, because Kayla White started off with an absolute bomb. 10.89 seconds plus 1.3 meters per second, a massive personal best. Breaks the 10.9 second barrier and improves on her best of 10.95, which she ran all the way back in 2019 at the NCAA championships when she was still at North Carolina A&T. Y'all know I've been, shouting out Kayla White for a little bit now. She made the team in 2023 in the 200, and she dealt with injuries back in 2024, so she had to sit out the year, but she is back. I spoke to her afterwards, and she said that she was confident. She knew, she really listened to her coach throughout the season, even though things didn't look exactly as they might have, as she might have wanted it to, leading into USA's.
I knew it was a long time coming. My coach wanted me to come out here and drop a bomb and just, run fast, because I've been stuck in the same cycle since the season started, running 11-1, 11-0. So, for this first round, he wanted me to get my body ready for tomorrow, to go those 2 rounds and make the team.
So huge shout outs to Kayla White, but she finished just ahead of Shacarri Richardson. Shacarri Richardson, 11.07 seconds. Now, on the surface, this wasn't a quote-unquote amazing performance, but what I do like about this is it's pretty much in line with what she did at Prefontaine, to a degree. Remember, Prefontaine Classic, she ran 11.19 seconds into a negative, I think, 1.4 meters per second headwind. So here, now 11.07, that's a little bit more in line with that if the wind was to flip around or if it was 0. Now, I understand this was plus 1.3, but overall decent performance for Shacarri. Afterwards, she did say that she maybe isn't planning to run the subsequent rounds, and maybe she's not even planning to run the 200. She seemed just focused on I just had to come here to show fitness, and now I'm focused on the World Championships in Tokyo. Here's a clip.
Today felt amazing, just to run a qualifying, show fitness and take the rest of the time to get ready for Tokyo. The plans for my rest of the meet is to make up my mind of what I need to do, what I want to do, and just get to Tokyo.
So not too clear, but we'll see, if she actually does progress through the rounds in the 200. Seems like I think she's going to shut things down from the 100. But overall, great performance. Shout out to Kayla White. That was only the first heat, though. Second heat, TeeTee Terry. 10.89 seconds once again. And this is going to be a theme because, Dennis Mitchell's Star Athletics group, they are absolutely cooking here. 10.89 for TeeTee Terry. That essentially kind of justifies and backs up the 10.85 that she ran a little bit earlier in the year down in Florida. And she feels confident. She's, got some momentum coming off what Kayla White did. Also Melissa Jefferson, who we'll talk about in a second. That group as a whole is really, really pushing themselves. And TeeTee Terry here, she kind of justified and backed up why she is a championship performer, in the sense that she may not show amazing form throughout the season, but she's going to get to USA's, either the championships or Olympic trials, and she's going to show up and try and make a team. She made it in 2022. She made it last year in 2024. So pretty confident that, I don't know, let me not say for sure, but I think that she has the ability to make this team. She's showing that fitness.
In practice, for me, it's just been a lot of focusing on the little things and not letting myself be consumed by frustration, because as athletes, we tend to want to be perfect. And sometimes, Coach Carroll always told me it doesn't have to be perfect to get it done. So with my current coach, Coach Dennis, he always tells me, TeeTee, you can look at it as your glass half full, Don't look at it as you 20 meters further. Look at it as you 20 meters closer. So that's kind of what we've been doing in practice.
She was ahead of Aaliyah Hobbs, though, also getting into some form, who ran 10.94 seconds. She had already run, what was it, 10 point, she ran 10.9, I think, on 2 occasions this year, one at Prefontaine, and then also, 10.89 at the meet in Florida. So she spoke about how, she, hasn't gotten as many races this year, so she's kind of running into form, and this is a good indication. The thing about Aaliyah is we know she has dealt with those injuries. Not saying she's going to deal with an injury here, but it just has kept her back from actually making teams in the past. She made 2022, but that was the only individual team. So we'll see how Aaliyah Hobbs does actually do here. Gabby Thomas. Gabby Thomas, 3rd place. Remember, TeeTee Terry, 10.89. Aaliyah Hobbs, 10.94. Gabby Thomas, 11.02. Gabby Thomas has been vocal about wanting to get under that 11-second barrier. She first ran 11 seconds flat back in 2021. And since then, she's run 11 seconds flat again, and she's run a bunch of windy sub 11-second performances, even just this year. When she came through the mix zone, I'm gonna be completely honest, she looked disappointed. She, didn't want to stop to talk with anybody. I don't know what this actually means in terms of her going forward. And I say that because I don't know if she planned to run all 3 rounds of the 100, or if she was just gonna run this one round, try and get under 11 seconds, and then move over to the 200. Or if this means she's now going to progress through all the rounds to, quote unquote, trying to make the team or try and get top, sub 11 seconds. But I think one big thing is that I feel like Gabby Thomas wanted to run a really good performance here to have motivation going into the 200. We know that Gabby is, the top 200 meter runner in the United States, but after her performance in Miami, where she didn't do as well in the 100, after her performance in Philly, where, she lost the 200 to Melissa, I think those things might have hit her a little bit in terms of confidence. Obviously, I'm not in her head, so I'm not, predicting anything, but I'm just saying that I feel like she wanted to get a confidence booster as she looks to prepare for the 200, coming up in a few days. So really, really tough for Gabby, but we'll see how that does translate over into either the next couple rounds or into the 200 meters in a few days. Last 2 heats, Melissa Jefferson-Wooden. She is the most dominant performer across the board, 10.86 seconds. Remember I said the first heat was plus 1.3? Remember I said the second heat, I said, plus 1.8? 10.86 seconds into a negative 1.5 meter per second headwind. Between Melissa Jefferson-Wooden and Julian Alfred, they cannot catch a break when it comes to this wind. They keep getting these headwinds that they're running these extremely fast times into. And this is why I was saying Dennis Mitchell's group is running on all cylinders, and they are absolutely cooking. Melissa Jefferson-Wooden just justifies and confirms why she is the most dominant 100-meter sprinter here and one of the most dominant athletes in the entire meet across any of them.
Absolutely. It's just like not letting the moment or not letting these trials be. I'm trying not to make it bigger than what it already is. I've been doing a really good job at just focusing in on Melissa and what I need to do in order to execute my races the way I need to. And so that's been working for me. So I'm going to keep doing it no matter if it's the U.S. trials.
So shout out to her. Clear favorite going into the semis and the final. Jason Sears, she kind of rounded things out, running 10.85 seconds. But there was a plus 3.2 meter per second headwind. So, it was really tough here. The wind was swirling. I don't know if you've ever seen this much drastic change when talking about the wind at a championships like this, but plus 3.2 for Jason Sears. Jenna Prandini, she came up for second in 10.95. Anavia Battle, 11.02. So decent performances across the board considering the wind, but I think for me this at least just does show that Jason Sears is in some good form. I do want to keep an eye out for Tamari Davis. She didn't run that well here. Again, not exactly sure what her fitness is, but remember I noted she had not competed since since June 1st. That was the Philly Grand Slam track meet. That was the last time she competed. I didn't get a chance to speak with her afterwards, but we'll see how she does progress through the rounds. But initially, wasn't the greatest of signs. So we'll see how the rounds do progress. But that was just the women's 100. I'm gonna have a separate video on the men's 100, so definitely check that out afterwards. I'm excited though. This told me a lot about what we should expect when we go into the semifinals. And then in the case of some other athletes like a Gabby Thomas, what we should potentially, look forward to in the 200. And again, Shacarri Richardson, not sure if she's actually gonna be running the rest of the rounds, and seems like she's leaving the 200 open as well. But let me know what you think about those women's 100-meter heats, and yeah, definitely check out the men's 100-meter heats. Gonna have another video on that. Thanks for watching, y'all.